start to the morning, first full day of Comic-Con 2015. Heather Myers alongside Mark Bailey here. We are in the ground floor of the Hard Rock Hotel right across the street from the Downtown Convention Center.
And heroes everywhere you look. It is so much fun just to be on the outskirts here and to be on the edges of this thing. And you know, if you don't really want to dive into the whole thing, come on down and just kind of do what we're doing and hang out on the perimeter. It's majorly entertaining, I can tell you that.
You know, several months back, people jumped online. 130,000 badges were handed out to get inside the convention center. If you didn't get one of those badges, don't let that stop you from coming down here and enjoying all the festivities that surround Comic-Con. This morning, we have one of Comic-Con's special guests here with us this morning.
Yeah, Scott Mccloud joins us here this morning, and you kind of wrote the book on how to get into the business, didn't you?
Kind of did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're forcing him to read it in college, so I guess it is the book now.
Oh, that's where the money is, in textbooks.
That's what they tell me.
Okay. Boy, if you can combine comics and textbooks, you've hit a home run.
Yeah, well, it's fun to write about comics because, you know, it's such a big world, and it gets bigger every year. I mean, San Diego, I remember when it was a much smaller show up in the Civic Center, and now it's practically taking over the whole town.
Absolutely. That's the best part about Comic-Con is that every year it gets bigger and better. When it comes to understanding the culture of Comic-Con, you really were able to dive into that in some of your books. Where do people start if this is really foreign to them?
Well, other than my book, you know.
Which go ahead and plug.
Yeah,
no
you
problem.
go down to your local comic store or your local bookstore where they have a big comic section now, which is great. You're going to see not just the superheroes that we all hear about all the time, but there are comics for everybody. Comics for kids, comics for men and women, comics for people interested in all sorts of things. It's a much broader medium than it ever was before.
I'm just looking at all the characters we have back behind the camera right now. I'm wondering if any of them are with you.
You mean, yeah.
Folks back here?
Yeah, we have a lot of costumes coming.
We do. We got costumes everywhere.
Well, you know, they call it cosplay now, of course. You know, my kids are into that too, and it's actually a bit of an art itself, just the whole art of creating these costumes and all. It's a real creative challenge, and they're getting more colorful than they ever have been.
Now let me ask you about this book called The Sculptor. Was this a passion project for you? Because I know I read that this was 5 years in the making.
Yeah, 5 years to actually make the thing, but it's a story I've had in my back pocket for about 30. And in fact, one of the characters is inspired by my wife back during these 7 years where I was secretly in love with her before she even knew about it. So yeah, it's a very, very old story, and I've been talking about it as a collaboration between the 25-year-old me and the 50-year-old me.
You know, now that's really, really an interesting concept when you stop and think about it. I mean, movies have been made and stories have been told about that concept alone.
Yeah,
have you changed that much during that period of time that really your old self and your newer self do truly talk to one another? That's interesting.
I've changed a lot. You know, young people want to tell big stories, and older people like to tell stories about smaller things. I'm trying to find the big and the small in that story, and I think it worked okay.
Now, I know that you have been into comic books since you were a little boy, especially in high school is when you really realized that this is probably for me. How did your parents take it when you said, you know what, Mom and Dad, I'd like to spend the rest of my life digging into the comic book world?
They thought he was in law school.
How'd they take that?
They were supportive but concerned. Let's put it that way. You know, they knew I cared about it. They knew I had passion. My dad especially had a lot of passion for what he did. He was an engineer. And I guess they figured, well, if he cares that much about it one way or another, he's going to make a living at it, and that's how it turned out.
Boy, that's just a great message no matter what you decide to do with your life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Scott, thank you so much. Have a great weekend here at Comic-Con.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
Thank
We're going to be
Heather.
signing autographs just a moment ago. We popped that information up on the screen. So if you do have a badge, go check them out at the various booths we just showed you. Meet Scott and have him sign a couple autographs for you. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
You too.